Welcome back to Coffee and Tea with CarrieVee. I am CarrieVee, your biggest fan, the person who will believe in you before you can even believe in yourself. Coffee and Tea with CarrieVee is all things confidence, clarity, leadership, and communication. And joining us today is Currie Gauvreau, and he has written a book all about leadership that you are going to want to get your hands on. I will make sure everything is linked. Once you hear Currie talk about this book, you are going to want to read every single page so you can learn everything that he has to say about leadership. It's a fabulous book. I'll hold it up for those of you watching on YouTube. The Intentional Leader. And Currie,
Hello.
welcome to the show.
Oh,
And
thank you.
tell us about The Intentional Leader and why we need to read it.
In my journey, I've learned so much. I've been in the public sector as a police officer. I'm a retired police officer. Then I moved to the private sector, and then along that whole journey, I was always a trainer or a coach or a supervisor or a manager. And I started to learn in my mid to late 20s that there was actually a difference between being a manager and being a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And it fascinated me. When I moved into the public sector, and I was in a training capacity, and I started to do more and more on leadership, and I started to really understand leadership from an internal perspective. Well, I used a lot of that information to create a program for a customer of mine who I was engaged with. And that program was a 2-day immersive leadership program. And that's where the book came from. I thought that the 2-day program actually didn't have enough information in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a lot of that and I went to the book, and I started writing. And before I knew it, I had a book.
I am so glad you did. I was sharing with Currie off camera how what I do now in speaking and training and coaching is very much an outpouring of sitting under the training of Currie and seeing the passion that he presented. And so Currie, you really are a huge reason of why I do what I do, because I thought,
Well, thank
gosh,
you.
I love this. And I think I could do this. And you instill that belief into people, which is so crucial for a leader to do. Can you talk about that some? Like, what made you want to help train leaders?
Well, it's my opinion that success and failure is really based on leadership, effective leadership, particularly in the business sector. But you could do this in the private sector, or in your personal life, or wherever. Leadership is leadership. If you're a parent, you're a leader. If you're a neighbor, you're a leader. If you're a coach, you're a leader.
Yeah.
And so, for me, I saw so many people who had the potential, but they were so focused on the minutia and of managing, and they were missing the boat on some really talented people who
Yeah.
could do so much more for not only themselves but the business. And so I actually was asked to do a small training for leadership, and then that kind of grew into more coaching, and then I started to really take a different perspective, because a lot of leadership gurus. I don't claim to be a guru. I don't even claim to be an expert. But a lot of the leadership people out there have a very story laden, um, entertaining leadership training. I'm an academic. I've been a professor for over 20 years. Um, I believe that people need information so that they can then interpret it in their own way, incorporate into their behavior, and their behavior leads to better and bigger things.
Hmm. So you mentioned at the beginning of that statement that there was a big difference between management and leadership.
Mm.
I think even still, and maybe you see this as much as I do, people still use those terms interchangeably.
They do.
Can you give us the difference between them?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
A manager, their primary responsibility are processes. A leader's primary responsibility are people.
Hmm.
A manager is not making decisions and communicating with the recipient in mind. They're doing it with the goal of getting something done. A
Okay.
leader is engaging with their people, and they're helping the employee, the team member, whoever, be better by themselves, which in turn results in a better job and a better,
Yeah.
and progress and that sort of thing. Um, you know, I went to a show one time, and I saw a speaker, a guy by the name of Lance Secretan. I mentioned him in the book.
Okay.
Great speaker. Has a couple of books out himself, and so on. But he said something to me that really I liken to management and leadership. He said that there's a difference between motivation and inspiration. A lot of people don't realize that you can't motivate someone else.
Nope. Nope.
Motivation comes from within, right? And you have to, it's all internal. So the difference, the way that people approach motivation and inspiration is motivation is lighting a fire under someone. Inspiration is lighting a fire inside someone.
Mm.
And that hit me. And that's where all of a sudden it became more clear to me that we don't need managers. We need leaders. We
Yes.
need people who are going to inspire their team, not motivate their team. And that's where people lose their way. Everybody talks about motivation, motivation, motivation. And what we need to do is we can use it as a stepping stone, but we want to get to inspiration.
Yes. Do you think that most companies still focus on that management piece rather than the leadership piece?
They do, because management's easy to measure,
Okay.
right? So you have to have a balance. You absolutely do. You can't have and I say this tongue in cheek, you can't have your leader running around with no shoes on and singing, and you have to have a balance.
Yes.
So the business will thrive when leaders are creating other leaders. But the manager aspect and the employee aspect is about the processes and the goals and getting things done that are analytical.
Yes. So we need both.
We absolutely need both.
How does how does a leader inspire other leaders? How does a leader create leaders? How does a leader bring that in and inspire others to want to rise up to be a leader as well?
It's a great question. So, without getting too psychology on us,
Mhm.
human beings have needs, right? You and I have talked about this before, Maslow's hierarchy of
Yes.
needs, right? And so, what leaders need to understand is that until you accomplish the very bottom of that hierarchy of needs, which is the physiological needs, the safety, the clothing and sleeping and water and all of those, then you have security. Am I safe? Is my job safe? Will I be, so on and so forth. And then you get into belonging. This is where leadership starts to come in. The first two are not. The belonging part of Maslow is right in that middle of the pyramid. And what we're talking about is relationships,
Yes.
connections, family, all of those things. The next one after that is about achievement. It's about recognition. It's about, and so that's where leaders start to kick in. So you have to manage them until they're comfortable with the knowledge they have to accomplish their job, and then lead them so that they can be innovative. They can be creative. They can have flexibility to go out and kind of flex their intellectual muscles and contribute to the organization at a higher level.
Yes. So in your trainings, I'm guessing that you have come across business owners who don't want people to flex their innovation muscles. Can you talk a little bit about that?
You've heard the term, you can lead a horse to water, right?
Yeah.
And so, unless someone wants to become a better leader, and when I say better, I mean more effective,
Mhm.
you're wasting your time even having a conversation about it, because what they're going to do is they're going to um, uh, go halfway,
Yes.
right? They're gonna. I hate to say this, but they're going to pretend, Oh,
Yeah.
they're going to put up this because they said that's what good leaders do, but they're not really into it,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um, for me, it started when I was promoted as a police officer. I was a sergeant, and I realized in hindsight that the best leaders I ever had were the most unselfish.
Mhm.
They were the ones that you knew you could approach. They were the ones who you knew cared about you.
Yes.
Like, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about a couple of them now
Yeah.
because they changed my life.
Mhm.
So when you start thinking about becoming a leader, there's a reason I titled the book The Intentional Leader, because it takes intentional thought that turns into intentional behavior that starts your journey to effective leadership. And there is no destination, just so everyone understands.
Mhm.
This is a journey that never ends.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you can't say I won. That's like saying, I finished the internet. That
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
happen. So, when a leader in their journey learns that being unselfish and vulnerable
Mm, there's
is
that word.
okay, that's when steps start to become even bigger.
How do you help someone? I know we can't make people change. I'm just reading a book about that subject this morning. We can't make people change. We can't passive aggressive comment them into changing. We can't beg them into changing. We can't make people change. But how do we mm, how do we show people what effective leadership, what intentional leadership really looks like to the point that they want a piece of it?
So it starts inside, internal. And if they I can't come to you and say, Carrie, I want you to become a astronaut, and this is what we're going to do, because you're like, well, wait a minute, I don't want to be an astronaut.
Yeah.
So it has to be someone who says, man, things just, I'm not. Here's where in business that I've seen it, the light bulb go off. I started my business and I grew and grew and grew, and now I'm just doing this every year. Can I make a suggestion? Your people are performing at the exact same level because they're not progressing. How about we start focusing on the people? And before
Mm,
we can focus on the people, you need to know what you're all about, right? And look, I'm not one of those guys who can sit cross-legged and hold my hands like this, and I can't do that, right? But my centering, when I need to like escape, I put headphones on and I listen to Simon and Garfunkel's greatest hits. Or last night I went to Bert Cummings, the lead singer from the Guess Who. Music is my escape. People
mhm.
need to find their own, and all of a sudden you start to look internal, a little introspective, and you start to go, I don't like the way I reacted in that situation,
Yeah.
and you start to make those changes, because a true leader won't ask their people to do something they wouldn't do.
Yes.
Right?
How
So
many
if you're
times?
asking them to improve, but you're not improving, you're a manager pretending to be a leader.
I love that. A manager pretending to be a leader. So, how many times do you see when you go in for training now and in the past? How many times have you seen leaders, I'll put that in quotes, who are asking their people, their team, their employees to do something that they are unwilling to do themselves?
Um, Not as often as in the past.
Good.
There's so much information out there, and there's been a lot of turnover, generational turnover, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
you and I have talked about, where we're both raised in old-fashioned Italian families,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
The do it because I said so generation.
Yes. Yes.
So now, a lot of my interaction and training from the business perspective is in that residential service field.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those owners and managers are a little older. So they're a little bit more old fashioned, a little bit like, yeah, 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 do the leadership thing. And then they go away.
Yes.
Right. Whereas we did one last week where there was a new general manager for this massive company, but he was new and wanted to sit in on this particular plumbing training that was going on. And that didn't happen 10 years ago.
Yes.
Right. And
Yeah.
he was fully engaged and he was asking questions. And so I think that as generations change, I think that there's more and more openness to what effective leadership looks like. And, Carrie, sometimes it's hard love.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is. I've gotten in trouble in my life over the years for being honest.
Me too.
Yeah. When I have customers or clients of mine who are not reaching the levels that they think they should, I ask them, I go, would you like the truth or would you like me to just tell you what you want to hear?
What do they use? What do they normally choose?
Oh, tell me the truth. And then they don't like it.
What are some of the truths you've given them that they don't like?
Well, in one of my jobs, I run a distribution company that sells water filtration. Matter of fact, we did a podcast, I think.
Yes, we did. Yeah, I'll link it below so everybody can.
Thank you. And I was on another podcast. Sorry. and they asked me, sounds like you have a great product. Let me ask you, I've seen a lot of interesting products over the years. What makes a great product fail? It was a great question.
That's a fabulous question.
And I said, well, in my experience, there's only 3 reasons. You think it's a great product and it's not.
Uh-huh.
Or it is an absolute great product, but you don't support it properly. And a great product will fail if people can't get help or get, whatever. But if you have a great product and it's proven and you have amazing support and you still can't sell the product, that's a leadership issue.
Ouch, right?
And I'll tell them, I go, okay, in your city, across the city, there's another customer selling the same product and they're killing it. The same product, same city, same customers. What's different? The culture of the company.
Exactly.
And the culture is a direct descendant of the leadership.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
We see a lot of, as I go into different companies and train now because Currie trained me to be a trainer. I see so much of, I see so many leaders sit in on the training. Like they weren't going to come, but they end up coming down and they end up staying. And you can see light bulbs going off. For me, it's such a high. It's such a rush to see light bulbs start to go off. Are you starting to see that more and more and more?
Yeah, training has changed. So I did my very first training. So what I call training is you're standing up in front of a group of people, giving them information.
Yes.
My first one is 1989. It's a long time ago.
Yeah. Let's not say it's a long time ago because that's when I graduated college. So we're just going to say it was yesterday.
Me too.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And training then was always everybody in the room.
Yes.
Right?
Zoning out. Yep.
Today, you still get this, but you'll get guys leaning forward. But the best are the guys who take notes.
Yes.
So for me, that's an indicator. I know that wherever I am, there's some pretty decent culture going on here. I get the most excited when we're doing when we're interviewing dealers for our products. I get excited on the video call if I see them taking notes.
Yes.
I get, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. And what's really interesting is note taking isn't really just about the notes that you can refer to later. A lot of people don't realize that the way your physiology works and your psychology works, the act of writing helps solidify the information in your head. I actually was doing a training back 2012 or 13, and the owner of the company called me up the night before. He said, hey, I know you're in town. Let me take you to dinner. So he took me to dinner. We had a conversation. We were talking about my experience, military law enforcement training and then teaching at college.
Yeah.
And we started talking about adult learning. And I said, I'll give you an example. You have auditory people, you have visual people, and you have tactile people. And as a trainer, the more of those that you can engage with information, the better they'll remember it.
Yeah.
So if you have a PowerPoint, that's the visual. If you're talking to them, that's the auditory. And if they're taking notes, you just hit a grand slam.
Yes.
Don't you know the next morning for the training, the owner walked in with a bag full of folders, notebooks.
Yeah.
For everyone in the training. He goes,
Good for him.
everyone will take notes today.
Wow. Good
That's
for
a
him.
leader.
Yes, that is a leader.
Yeah.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
That
It
is
was awesome.
fabulous.
Yep.
Yeah, and I will often I always take a journal for everyone when I'm training, because I am such a note taker, and I
Yeah.
know that has helped me a lot in my life.
Yeah. I wish I was better at it. I do a lot of my stuff on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, as an example, I have an event every Friday morning ongoing, and it's called Stuff. and I open it up and I put things that I need to remember or things I need to bring up or whatever, and really, Carrie, in the book, if I have things that I've found to be helpful for me, if they're related to leadership, I put them in the book under the Currieisms. Do you remember the Currieisms?
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
This little thing or that little thing, and so every chapter has a Currieism, which is just my own personal experience or suggestion or something that works. And it's funny because I've had more and I wanted to do that. That was one of the things I wanted to do in the book. And I actually had people that helped me with the book that were fighting me on it.
Really?
Yeah. And
that was one of my favorite parts.
And I said, I'm telling you, this is my vision for the book.
Yeah.
Because this is not going to be a whole book of stories, but there'll be Currieisms that cover the little story, entertaining, funny, whatever. And so I won, and I'm so glad because more people talk about the Currieism than anything else.
Yeah. What's your favorite Currieism?
It's probably, oh boy. Oh, that's tough.
I try to have one stumping question.
Yeah. So there are two that I think are mostly related to the leader, and I like the most because I learned them by accident. And so one of them is right here.
Yes. Yep. Standards,
So
urgency, consistency, responsiveness.
So if you buy the book, I want you to know that I live what I write. I live what I preach.
Yes.
Okay? So the idea with this Currieism is if your company can follow these four things, you have the highest standards, they work with urgency, everything is consistent, including processes and procedures, and then we are responsive, which seems to be going out of style in today's society.
Doesn't it?
So that's a Currieism. And then my other one that I think when I have said this in leadership trainings, guys go, oh, I say it. And then they go, say that again. And they want to write it down.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you how it came about. I was recently promoted as a sergeant. And like a month in, they give me a brand new deputy. And obviously, first night, I'm like, hey, let's meet. And we pull up door to door. Nice to meet you. And he goes, I wasn't thinking about this. He goes, so what do I need to know? I was like, okay. So I only have a few, and I'm just kind of making it up as I go along. I have a few rules. Always be safe. Over communicate. I can't help you if I don't know it's going on.
Yep.
Don't make me act like a manager. If you do something you're not supposed to do, or you don't do something you're supposed to do, then I have to act like a manager.
Yep.
And have fun. And those four rules have stayed with me my entire leadership career.
That.
Because it's valid in any industry. right? If I'm talking to a bunch of plumbers, be safe, over communicate, don't make me, and have fun. Because if you're not having fun, you're in the wrong job.
Yes. So true. So true. Um, just to ping pong off of that, when I started this business and I was working with my coach, I remember coming on to one of our calls and she knew immediately that I was just my energy was off and I was so discouraged. And I said, "How do you do it? How do you scale so quickly?" And she said, "All right, she used your phrase. Do you want me to stroke your ego or do you want me to give you the hard truth?" I said, "I want the hard truth." She goes, "You're too dang serious. You need to go out there and bust a move, have some fun. You went into this because you love it. Have fun." I think that's a piece, Curry, that people don't get. And
Yeah.
maybe it's culturally, certainly in my time, we were taught you don't have fun till the work is done.
Yeah. And it's a shame
Yeah, it is.
because if you, because that's the norm, just so we're all clear.
Yeah.
Anyone who has the drive to start an endeavor, that means that they have that mindset where they started it because it's something that they love and they think they can be successful. And then the pressure of doing better year over year over year over year,
Yes.
of performing year over year over that, of growing. And none of us are ever satisfied, right? Oh, I can't wait till I make $30,000 a year. Okay, well, now I can't wait till I make 50. Oh, I can't wait till I make 200. I can't wait till I make. Never satisfied,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a real challenge. And what happens? God, I hate to go back to Maslow again, but what happens is, out of those 5 parts of the pyramid, when you get to around our age, right, mid to late 50s, early 60s, you start to look ahead and go, wait a minute, what's ahead? I'm not going to keep doing this. I need to start enjoying, and maybe I need to take a step back. Maybe I don't need to be the one driving,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's really where I have seen guys start to turn the page and start to enjoy, when they start to take the leaders they've developed and empower them to assume the duties,
Yes,
right? And if you have people who don't want to assume the duties, they're the wrong people,
exactly. Exactly.
right?
This is such real talk, Curry.
Yeah, well, you want to train your replacement. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's true.
Always,
Yeah,
always,
absolutely.
always. I think we maybe as people we need to think we're irreplaceable, but we all are, and we're all
Oh,
going to be.
yeah, of course I think I'm irreplaceable. Nobody can do what I can do.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I have several jobs I've left in the past where they proved me wrong.
yes, yep, yes, yes. And when you think that you're irreplaceable, I think it for me anyway, it puts such an amount of stress on me that I never needed to carry.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Over the last couple of years, 4 or 5 years, especially after I finished the book, because I put a lot of pressure on myself to finish the book,
Mhm.
I've started to sort of take a step back and say, stop stressing yourself out about the minutia.
Yeah.
Even though that's what made me successful over all those years, right?
Mhm.
Was I'm the detail oriented guy. I'm the guy who says, nope, nope, you missed a T there, or you didn't put a
Yeah.
comma, whatever it is. But I've started to take a step back and go, okay, nobody's going to die if I don't read that email right now.
Yes.
Whereas I used to be like, pause the movie at 9:30 at night and read the email, and God bless my wife. you know,
Yes.
um,
Yep.
but now, like, I'll put my phone in the charger in the bedroom and we'll be watching a show, and my phone will be going off, and she'd be like, "Oh, your phone's going off." I go, "Yeah, I'll get it in a bit,"
Yeah.
which is an improvement for me,
Mhm. A good
But I'm
im
at that point in my life where I can do
Yeah.
that,
Yes. Yeah. Stages of leadership, stages of growth for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, but it's a journey.
It is a journey, and it's been fun watching you grow. When I saw on the social media, I think it was Facebook, that you had this book, I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's been too long since Curry's been on here." Anyway, we have to bring Curry back, and we have to talk about this book because as I've been delving into leadership and communication, that is what draws me in now,
Yeah.
and
Do you
helping people.
do you know it won an award?
No, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, it won a Literary Titan Award for nonfiction.
Wow, congratulations. I'm
I'm
not surprised
so
though.
I'm so proud. Yeah.
I'm not surprised, Curry, because you are someone who strives for excellence in everything you do.
Well, I appreciate that. I
Yeah, you're
appreciate it.
welcome.
And I'm glad you liked the book. That makes me happy.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. I'm actually like thinking when I do leadership trainings, everybody needs a copy of it.
So can I tell you one more book that I highly recommend for leaders?
Yes, please.
Um, it's a book called It's Your Ship.
It's your ship. I think we maybe did we talk about this?
We
I'm writing it
probably
down
did.
though.
I'm a huge fan. Again, it's a military oriented. It was written by a captain in the Navy.
Mhm.
Abrahoff, I believe is how you pronounce his name, but he took over the worst performing ship in the Navy, the USS Benhoff or Benfold. I forget now. Anyway, but I read that book and then I got what I like to call cliff notes, but I got like an abbreviated and I highlighted. And every leadership training I do, I give out the highlighted. So I probably sent it to you, but there are things in there that are amazing, and I think that you and your followers would enjoy that one as well.
Yeah, thank
About
you.
leadership, about leadership.
Yes, thank you. I will we'll make it a little bundle.
Yeah, there you go.
It'll
Yeah,
be part of their training bundle.
there you go.
Curry, this time has gone way too fast. I think we're gonna have to do a part two because there's so many parts of the book that I'd love to delve into more.
I'd love that.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you. We would
yeah,
love to have you back to really go
sure.
through more of the details in the book and what makes Curry tick and write these amazing things. So, before we let you go, though, we need to know your superpower.
Oh, my superpower. Um, this is going to sound braggadocious.
Let us have it.
My intuition.
That doesn't sound braggadocious at all. I totally agree.
I have found over the years that my intuition is pretty good with
Mhm,
people.
mhm.
With people, um, most of the time, and it might take a long time, but most of the time, if something pops into my head and it comes to fruition at some point,
Wow.
which is really interesting.
That is very interesting.
Yeah. So, but I spent 2 decades as a police officer communicating and dealing with people, and then the last 25 years I've spent coaching and training and dealing with people. So I think that helps, obviously. But I think I was just born a little more intuitive.
Yeah.
Big Italian family, all of us very tight, very close knit, almost reading each other's minds. I mean, it was kind of cool. I think that's my superpower.
I love it. I think it's a great superpower. And we talked about writing and how physiologically that really cements things into your brain. And
Yeah.
so every episode of Coffee and Tea with CarrieVee, we leave our listeners with a writing prompt, something to get them writing. So what is something that they could write about after they listen to this podcast?
Today, I'm going to start my leadership journey by being vulnerable in this area.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. Today I'm going to start my leadership journey by being vulnerable in fill in the blank.
Fill in the blank. Yes.
Love it. I love it. There are so many possibilities. And since I am a leader, I promise that I will do that so that we want to hear. We want to hear either comment under the podcast or send a message to Currie. How can we find you, Currie?
Oh, I'm on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Perfect.
Does that
I
work?
will link your LinkedIn.
Okay.
I will link Currie's LinkedIn so you can contact him directly, let him know what stuck out to you in this podcast and how you answered that journal prompt as well, if you feel comfortable. I mean, maybe that's what you're going to write about, being vulnerable in being open. Okay.
Yeah.
Currie, thank you for hanging out with us today. It's been wonderful. Can't wait to have you back so we can talk more about this book, about you, what you're up to in your life, and all the things. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you.